Can you imagine the feeling of driving for hours on a deserted road, knowing that each mile takes you further away from civilization, until suddenly you simply disappear? In July 2019, security cameras at an isolated gas station in the Nevada desert captured the last images of David Chen, a 34-year-old software engineer who was taking a seemingly routine trip through the American West. He filled up his Ford F-150 pickup truck, bought 2 bottles of water and some snacks, exchanged a few friendly words with the attendant, and continued his journey along Highway 375 toward the arid horizon that stretched endlessly before him. 3 hours later, his pickup truck was found abandoned on the side of the road, with the engine still running, the doors wide open, and something inside the vehicle that made even the experienced investigators immediately retreat and call for specialized reinforcements. What you are about to discover may surprise you, because this case goes far beyond a simple disappearance on a deserted road. David Chen wasn't the type of person who simply disappeared without a trace. A software engineer at a respected tech company in San Francisco, he was known for his meticulous organization, constant communication with family and friends, and cautious nature when it came to long trips. His parents, Chinese immigrants who had built a stable life in California, had raised David with values of responsibility and planning that made him someone who would never unnecessarily worry his family. The trip that would change everything forever had begun as a well-planned personal project. David was driving from San Francisco to Denver, where he would attend a technology conference the following week. But instead of choosing the more direct route via Interstate 80, he decided to take a scenic detour through the backroads of Nevada, something he had planned months in advance as an opportunity to photograph American desert landscapes for a personal photography project. Have you ever had that experience of planning the perfect trip, with every detail meticulously organized, only to discover that we don't always have control over what happens on the road? David had shared his detailed itinerary with his girlfriend, Sarah, including approximate arrival times in each city, planned stops and even the hotels where he intended to stay overnight. It was exactly the kind of planning we would expect from someone with his technical background and organized personality. David's last contact with the outside world occurred at 2:23 p.m. that July afternoon, when he posted a photo on Instagram showing the arid Nevada landscape with the caption, "Middle of nowhere, Nevada." Amazing how deafening the silence can be here. The geographical location of the photo corresponded exactly to the gas station where security cameras last captured him, refueling his vehicle and seemingly in perfect physical and mental condition. But here's where the story takes a turn that no one, not even the most experienced investigators, could have predicted. When David's pickup truck was discovered abandoned 3 hours later by a trucker who stopped to offer help, thinking it was a mechanical breakdown, the scene he found defied any logical explanation of vehicle breakdowns or conventional road accidents. Stick with me until the end, because the details about the condition in which the truck was found, the contradictory evidence discovered at the scene, and the disturbing theories that emerged during the investigation will make you question everything you thought you knew about road trip safety in the United States. The Nevada desert, with its mesmerizing vastness and arid beauty, hides secrets that go far beyond the seemingly empty landscape stretching to the horizon, and the case of David Chen would become just another mystery in a region where the line between reality and impossibility seems thinner than anywhere else in the country. Now, let's delve into the specific details about who David Chen was and what led him to make that fateful decision to choose an alternate route through one of the most isolated and mysterious areas of all of American territory. But before we continue with this in-depth investigation, I need to share something important with you. When I started researching cases like David Chen's, I realized there's an incredible community of people who also feel uneasy about these unexplained mysteries that happen on our roads. These are family members of missing persons, travelers who have had strange experiences, and people like you who feel that some disappearances simply don't receive the investigative attention they deserve. If this topic resonates with you, if you've ever felt uneasy traveling on deserted roads, or if you know someone who's experienced something inexplicable during a trip, leave a comment below about what has resonated with you so far. Have you ever had a strange experience on deserted roads? Or perhaps you simply feel like me, that cases like David's deserve more attention than they receive. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of serious investigative content. And look, if you're feeling the same tension I felt when I discovered the disturbing details about the state of David's truck, click the like button below. It shows me I'm on the right track, bringing you investigations that truly grab your attention and tackle mysteries that deserve to be explored with the seriousness they require. If you want to continue delving into these cases that defy simple explanations with me, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I can guarantee that David Chen's story will take you down investigative paths you never imagined. And I have other cases of disappearances on American highways that will make you completely rethink your perception of road safety. It is this community that we have built together. That makes it possible for me to dedicate weeks investigating every detail, talking to family members, analyzing forensic evidence, and mining for information that authorities often prefer to keep under wraps. Every comment, every like, every new subscription is literally what allows me to continue shedding light on stories like David's. Now, returning to our central mystery, David Chen was much more than just another software engineer on a business trip. Born in 1985 into a family of Chinese immigrants who settled in Silicon Valley during the tech boom of the 1990s, David grew up in an environment where precision, planning, and constant communication were not just family values, but matters of survival in a new country. David Chen was much more than just another software engineer on a business trip. Born in 1985 into a family of Chinese immigrants who settled in Silicon Valley during the tech boom of the 1990s, David grew up in an environment where precision, planning, and constant communication were not just family values, but matters of survival in a new country. His parents, Dr. Wei Chen and Professor Linda Chen, had arrived in the United States with 2 suitcases, diplomas that needed to be validated, and an unwavering determination to offer their son opportunities they themselves had never had. The transformation of the family from economic refugees to respected members of the San Francisco tech community was built on a foundation of hard work, constant study, and above all, the mindset that meticulous planning was the difference between success and failure. David absorbed these lessons deeply. A Stanford University computer science graduate with academic honors, he had built a solid career as a senior engineer at Cloud Tech Solutions, a promising startup specializing in cloud storage solutions for mid-sized businesses. At 34, David was known among colleagues and friends as someone who never made impulsive decisions, who always had a backup plan for his backup plans, and who would never leave anyone unnecessarily worried about his whereabouts. The journey that would change everything forever had been planned with the same precision that David applied to his software projects. The TechCon 2019 conference in Denver represented an important opportunity for his career. He had been selected to present a paper on optimizing data compression algorithms, research that could open doors to significant promotions or job offers at larger companies. But here's where David's meticulous personality led him to make a decision that, in retrospect, seems completely out of character. Instead of flying straight to Denver or driving the faster, safer route along Interstate 80, David chose to do what he described to his girlfriend Sarah as a journey of personal discovery through the real America. This almost poetic language was unusual for someone who normally communicated in precise, practical terms. The impact of this decision on those close to David was immediate and worrying. Sarah Mitchell, a 32-year-old clinical psychologist who had been dating David for 3 years, would later report to the police that she had questioned this sudden change in her boyfriend's behavior. David, who normally discussed every important decision with her, had announced his new course of action as a fait accompli, saying only that he needed time to think about some important things. The underlying causes of this behavioral change included other signs that, upon later analysis, seemed to indicate that something had been troubling David in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. Co-workers noticed that he had become more introverted, spent more time researching topics unrelated to work during work hours, and had asked strange questions about company policies related to extended leaves and international transfers. The specific route David chose through the Nevada desert was particularly intriguing because it required Detailed knowledge of secondary roads that don't appear on most conventional GPS systems. Highway 375, known locally as the extraterrestrial highway due to its proximity to Area 51 and the frequent reported UFO sightings in the region, was not a road anyone would accidentally choose or casually discover. The revelations about David's specific planning for this route came to light when investigators analyzed his internet browsing history. In the 2 weeks prior to the trip, David had extensively researched the geography of the Nevada desert, points of interest along Highway 375, and curiously, had also visited online forums dedicated to discussions about paranormal phenomena and conspiracy theories related to Area 51. The mindset behind this research was completely inconsistent with the David that family and friends knew. He had never shown any interest in conspiracy theories, paranormal phenomena, or anything related to UFOs. His girlfriend Sarah described it as completely out of character when she discovered that David had downloaded apps for detecting anomalous electromagnetic activity and had purchased specialized camping equipment for extreme wilderness conditions. The first signs that something was wrong emerged long before David physically disappeared. The hidden truth is that people close to him had noticed subtle behavioral changes that, in retrospect, suggested David was preparing for something far more complex than a simple business trip. He had started asking questions about procedures for canceling rental contracts, had moved funds between his bank accounts in an unusual way, and had updated his will without mentioning these actions to Sarah. David's decision not to use his conventional GPS system and instead print detailed physical maps of the region also raised questions about his true intentions. For someone who lived digitally connected and who rarely did anything without electronic documentation, this choice represented a fundamental shift in his approach to planning and navigation. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because the analysis of David Chen's last documented hours before his disappearance reveals even more intriguing aspects about his behavior and his possible intentions on that fateful afternoon in the Nevada desert. Comment below. Something was different with David. If you're also noticing that the changes in his behavior suggest that this disappearance may have been more complex than a simple accident or random kidnapping. An analysis of David Chen's last documented hours leads us to the most important security footage of the entire investigation, the recordings from the Desert Oasis Travel Center, an isolated gas station located at kilometer 247 of Highway 375. These images, captured by 4 different security cameras, represent not only the last visual evidence of David alive, but also reveal behavioral aspects that completely transformed investigators' understanding of his true intentions that afternoon. The hidden truth about these recordings is that they show David Chen seemingly following a very specific mental script, not someone making a casual stop to refuel. Frame-by-frame analysis of the footage reveals a series of deliberate behaviors suggesting prior preparation and detailed knowledge of the location, despite it theoretically being his first visit to that gas station. The visual impact of David's first impression on the cameras was of a completely calm and composed person. He parked his silver Ford F-150 right next to gas pump number 3, which offered the best visibility of the entire surrounding area and access roads. This strategic choice did not go unnoticed by investigators, especially considering that pumps 1 and 2 were completely free and offered easier access to the convenience store. David's behavioral journey on camera followed a pattern that seemed almost ritualistic. He remained inside the vehicle for exactly 3 minutes and 40 seconds after parking, apparently observing the area and possibly waiting for other customers to leave. During this time, the cameras captured David repeatedly fiddling with his cell phone, but later, analysis of the operator's records revealed that he was not making calls or sending messages, simply nervously manipulating the device. The mindset behind David's movements while refueling revealed even more intriguing aspects. Instead of simply filling up and entering the store, he followed a specific sequence of actions. First, he completely filled the tank, then walked around the vehicle meticulously checking the tires and windows, and finally, he conspicuously locked the car before heading towards the store entrance. For someone who was theoretically making a quick stop during a trip, this level of precaution seemed excessive, The most significant revelations came from analyzing David's behavior inside the convenience store. Internal cameras showed that he didn't follow the typical pattern of customers on the go. He didn't go straight to the refrigerators for drinks or the snack aisles. Instead, David spent the first 2 minutes apparently studying a road map affixed to the wall near the counter, making notes in a small notebook he was carrying. The most notable change in David's behavior occurred during his interaction with the attendant, Miguel Santos, a 28-year-old employee who had worked at the station for 4 years and who would become the last person to speak with David before his disappearance. According to Miguel's official testimony, the conversation lasted approximately 5 minutes and included specific questions that, in retrospect, seemed to have very clear purposes. The behind-the-scenes details of this conversation, as reported by Miguel, revealed that David wasn't just making casual small talk. He asked detailed questions about road conditions further ahead, the frequency of police patrols in the area, and, curiously, inquired about any unusual activity Miguel might have noticed in the area recently. When Miguel asked what David meant by unusual activity, David apparently changed the subject quickly. An analysis of David's purchases offered further clues about his immediate plans. Besides the 2 bottles of water and snacks expected for a trip, David bought items that seemed inconsistent with someone planning to arrive in Denver the next day. 3 small flashlights, extra batteries, a detailed road map of the region, despite already having printed maps at home, and surprisingly, a basic first aid kit. David's decision to pay for these purchases exclusively in cash also raised questions. For someone who used credit cards for virtually all transactions, as confirmed by subsequent bank analyses, the use of cash represented a deliberate change in behavior that suggested intentions to avoid electronic traces of his activities. The most disturbing revelation about this last documented stop came when investigators analyzed the exact moment David left the gas station. External cameras captured David standing next to his vehicle for almost 2 minutes before entering, apparently making a phone call. However, records from the phone company showed that no call was made at that time. David was clearly simulating a conversation for any casual observer. The impact of this staging on the investigators' understanding was significant because it indicated that David was consciously trying to create the impression of normalcy while executing a plan that required discretion. The combination of seemingly casual behavior with deliberate security precautions suggested that David knew he was about to do something that could put him at risk, or that he didn't want to be easily tracked. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this matter because what happened in the 3 hours between David leaving that gas station and the discovery of his abandoned truck represents one of the most disturbing and inexplicable aspects of the entire case. What happened in the 3 hours between David leaving the gas station and the discovery of his abandoned pickup truck leads us to the most disturbing moment of the entire investigation. The discovery was made by Marcus Rodriguez, a 47-year-old veteran truck driver who was driving along Highway 375 toward Las Vegas when he spotted the silver Ford F-150 stopped on the side of the road with its emergency lights flashing intermittently. Marcus's initial perception of the situation changed rapidly. Thinking it was a common mechanical breakdown, he stopped his truck and walked toward the abandoned vehicle around 5:45 p.m., exactly 3 hours and 20 minutes after David had left the Desert Oasis Travel Center. What Marcus found, however, completely defied his expectations based on decades of experience assisting drivers in distress on American roads. The hidden truth about the truck's condition was that it showed no signs of mechanical failure, accident, or any kind of conventional emergency. The engine was running, idling perfectly, the fuel tank was almost full, and all electrical systems were functioning normally. The hazard lights flashed in a pattern that Marcus described as hypnotic and deliberate, not the erratic flashing typical of a malfunctioning electrical system. The visual impact of the scene was deeply disturbing. Both front doors were wide open, as if David and possibly another person had exited the vehicle simultaneously, but there were no visible footprints in the hard sand of the shoulder to indicate where they might have gone. The asphalt of Highway 375 in that stretch was clean and free of skid marks, suggesting that the stop had been intentional and controlled, not the result of a sudden emergency. Marcus's investigative journey around the vehicle revealed even more disconcerting details. The air conditioning was running at full blast, keeping the truck's interior cool despite the 42-degree Celsius heat of the Nevada desert that afternoon. The radio was tuned to a pure static frequency, producing a constant white noise that Marcus described as deafening and profoundly uncomfortable. The revelations about what Marcus found on the driver's seat forced him to immediately back down and call the police, instead of attempting a personal search of David. On the seat was a sealed white envelope with the words, "For whoever may find it," written in capital letters in handwriting that appeared shaky or written under stress. Marcus, following instincts developed over years on the road, decided not to touch the envelope and instead documented his discovery with photos on his cell phone before contacting the authorities. The mindset behind Marcus's decision not to disturb anything at the scene proved correct when investigators arrived 40 minutes later. Detective Thomas Hayes, a 22-year veteran of the Nevada State Police, described the scene as one of the most perplexing he had encountered in his career, specifically because it combined elements of deliberate planning with signs of sudden abandonment that didn't make sense together. The initial forensic analysis revealed contradictions that baffled experienced investigators. While the envelope on the driver's seat suggested prior planning to abandon the vehicle, other aspects of the scene indicated an abrupt and possibly involuntary departure. The key was in the ignition. The driver's seatbelt was unbuckled but still partially stretched, as if it had been quickly removed, and the rearview mirror was adjusted to a position that did not correspond to David's height. The physical evidence left behind painted a contradictory picture of David's last actions. His cell phone was in the center console, fully functional but with GPS location disabled, a change that had been made manually, as the device's history showed that GPS had been active throughout the trip up to that point. His wallet was in the glove compartment, containing all his identification documents and credit cards, but the money he had used at the gas station was missing. The most disturbing shift in understanding the scene came when investigators analyzed what was missing from the vehicle. The travel backpack David was carrying, photographed by the gas station's cameras, had completely vanished. The printed maps he had meticulously prepared were also missing, as were the first aid kit and flashlights he had purchased just hours before. The investigators' decision to treat the scene as a potential crime rather than an accident or willful abandonment was influenced by a specific detail that Detective Hayes initially hesitated to disclose publicly. The envelope left on the driver's seat when finally opened contained a single sentence written in the same shaky handwriting. "They were right about this place. Sorry for everything." The note was unsigned, and subsequent handwriting analysis confirmed that it had been written by David, but under conditions of extreme physical or emotional stress. The implication of this note in the investigation was profound, because it suggested that David had prior knowledge about something specific related to that location, contradicting the initial narrative that he had simply chosen a random scenic route. The reference to them indicated that David had received information or warnings from other people about the area, but subsequent investigations failed to identify who these sources were. Forensic analysis of the vehicle also revealed evidence that David was not alone in the final moments before abandoning the vehicle. Partial fingerprints on the steering wheel and door handles did not match David alone, but further analysis was hampered by exposure to the extreme desert heat. Fabric fibers found inside the vehicle included material that did not match the clothing David was wearing when he was last seen at the gas station. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this matter, because the detailed forensic analysis of the pickup truck and the surrounding area has revealed even more disturbing aspects that have forced a complete reassessment of the initial theories about what really happened to David Chen that afternoon in the Nevada desert. Comment below. The note changes everything. If you also realize that the message left by David suggests he knew something was going to happen at that specific location. Detailed forensic analysis of the pickup truck and surrounding area revealed contradictions that completely transformed investigators' initial understanding of David Chen's disappearance. The hidden truth emerged when specialized technicians applied luminol to the interior of the vehicle, and discovered microscopic traces of blood on the steering wheel and passenger seat. Blood that subsequent analysis confirmed to be David's, but in such small quantities that it suggested superficial injuries, not serious trauma. The impact of this discovery on the investigation was significant because it indicated that some kind of physical alteration had occurred, but not necessarily extreme violence. The distribution of the blood suggested small cuts or scratches, possibly on hands or arms, but the absence of larger amounts ruled out scenarios of fatal violence inside the vehicle. This led investigators to consider that David may have been slightly injured before or during his exit from the vehicle. The investigative journey through digital data revealed even more disconcerting aspects about David's last hours. Analysis of the truck's GPS showed that he had made an unplanned stop approximately 40 minutes before abandoning the vehicle, a stop of exactly 12 minutes in a remote location that did not correspond to any obvious point of interest or navigational need. The revelations about this mysterious stop came when investigators visited the recorded GPS coordinates. The location was a completely deserted area, approximately 3 kilometers from the main road, accessible only by a dirt track that required a 4-wheel drive vehicle for safe navigation. There were no structures, historical landmarks, or any apparent reason for David to have chosen to detour there, especially considering that he was theoretically following a specific schedule to reach Denver. The mindset behind this unplanned stop became clearer when investigators discovered physical evidence at the scene. Footprints from at least 2 different people were found in an area of soft sand near natural rock formations, including footprints that matched David's shoes and others that belonged to someone wearing heavy hiking boots. The most disturbing discovery was freshly smoked cigarette butts of a brand David didn't use. He wasn't a smoker. Behind-the-scenes analysis of David's cell phone revealed data that further complicated the investigation. Although he had manually disabled GPS location before abandoning the vehicle, the cell tower data history showed that his phone had connected to multiple towers, in a sequence suggesting erratic movement or possibly several trips back and forth within a limited area before the final loss of signal. The shift in understanding the case came when investigators analyzed David's last digital communications. 3 hours before his disappearance, he had received a text message from an unregistered number that simply read, "Coordinates confirmed. Go to the secondary location as discussed." David had replied with "understood," but when investigators tried to trace the originating number, they discovered it was registered under false information and had been permanently deactivated shortly after the message exchange. The family's testimonies revealed aspects of David's personality and recent behavior that no one had previously connected. Sarah Mitchell, his girlfriend, admitted during more detailed questioning that David had received several phone calls in the weeks leading up to the trip, calls that he answered privately and about which he refused to provide details when questioned. David's decision not to discuss these connections with Sarah was completely out of character for someone who normally shared every aspect of his professional and personal life. Sarah described how David had become progressively more secretive about his online activities, changing passwords for accounts they previously shared, and spending significant time on his personal computer during unusual hours. The most disturbing revelations came from David's parents, Dr. Wei Chen and Professor Linda Chen. During emotional interviews with investigators, they admitted that David had asked strange questions about the family's history in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. Specifically, he had inquired about possible family connections to government scientific research during the early years after his parents immigrated to the United States. The impact of these family revelations was significant because Dr. Wei Chen had briefly worked as a consultant on classified aerospace research projects during the 1990s, information that David had apparently only recently discovered through old family documents. The exact nature of these projects remained classified, but the discovery led investigators to consider whether David's disappearance might be connected to his family's professional past. The police's initial theories followed conventional directions that quickly proved inadequate. The first accident theory was abandoned when medical analyses confirmed that no serious physical trauma had occurred inside the vehicle. The second theory of kidnapping by random criminality was discarded due to the absence of evidence of a struggle and the presence of the note voluntarily left by David. The third suicide theory was also ruled out when extensive searches within a 50-kilometer radius of the abandonment site found no evidence of a body or attempts at self-harm. The fourth theory of voluntary escape was questioned by the discovery of microscopic blood and evidence that David was not alone during his final moments in the vehicle. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because abandoning conventional theories has forced investigators to consider far more complex and disturbing possibilities about what really happened to David Chen that day in the Nevada desert. Abandoning conventional theories forced investigators to consider far more complex possibilities regarding David Chen's disappearance, and each new theory revealed even more disturbing aspects of what might have actually happened that day in the Nevada desert. The shift in investigative approach occurred when it became clear that no simple explanation could account for all the contradictory evidence found at the scene. The theory of a desert accident was the first to be completely ruled out, not only due to the absence of physical evidence of trauma, but also due to a deeper analysis of the environmental conditions and David's behavior. The hidden truth is that typical desert accidents, from dehydration to bites from venomous animals, leave specific forensic traces that were completely absent in this case. Furthermore, the note left by David and the presence of evidence of prior planning eliminated any possibility that he had simply gotten lost or suffered a sudden medical emergency. The impact of eliminating the accident theory forced investigators to confront the reality that they were dealing with something deliberate and possibly orchestrated. The investigative mindset had to evolve from standard procedures for accidental disappearances to more sophisticated protocols that considered elements of conspiracy or organized activity. The journey through the organized crime kidnapping theory initially seemed promising due to the discovery of a second person's footprints at the mysterious stop. Evidence in favor included microscopic traces of David's blood, the presence of cigarette butts that didn't match his habits, and the fact that his most valuable belongings, including electronics and money, had selectively disappeared. The revelations about this theory deepened when investigators discovered that Highway 375 is a known route for smuggling activities due to its isolation and low frequency of police patrols. The proximity of Area 51 and other classified military installations in the region created a reduced surveillance zone that criminal organizations could exploit to transport illicit goods or people. Behind the scenes, the analysis of this theory revealed disturbing aspects of criminal logistics in the region. Investigators discovered that at least 7 other similar disappearances had occurred in the same area in the last 15 years. Cases where vehicles were found abandoned in similar conditions, but which were filed away as accidents or deliberate escapes without thorough investigation. However, evidence against the kidnapping theory was equally compelling. The note left by David suggested prior knowledge of what was about to happen, not the typical surprise of a victim of random crime. Furthermore, the exchange of text messages discovered on David's cell phone indicated prior coordination with an unknown person or persons, suggesting voluntary participation rather than involuntary victimization. The most significant shift in the investigation came when investigators began to seriously consider the theory of a planned escape. This possibility gained credibility when analyzed alongside David's behavioral changes in the weeks leading up to his disappearance, his online searches on topics unrelated to work, and his questions about his father's professional history. The mindset behind a planned escape would explain many seemingly contradictory aspects of the case. The note left in the vehicle could have been a way of ending her previous life. The behavioral changes could indicate psychological preparation for a new identity, and the prior knowledge of the specific location could have been part of an elaborate plan to disappear without leaving a trace. The evidence supporting this theory included the discovery that David had discreetly liquidated some investments in the weeks leading up to the trip, bank transactions he hadn't mentioned to Sarah, and the fact that he had cancelled some upcoming appointments without providing detailed explanations. His decision to manually disable the GPS on his cell phone also fit the pattern of someone trying to avoid detection. However, aspects of the scene contradicted a completely voluntary escape. Microscopic traces of blood suggested some kind of physical alteration that David may not have anticipated, and the presence of evidence of a second person at the mysterious stop indicated that David may not have had complete control over the final events of his disappearance. The most disturbing and complex theory that emerged during the investigation was the possibility of a planned encounter that went off script. This theory suggests that David had agreed to meet someone at that specific location for purposes that were not fully revealed, but that the encounter took turns that he had not anticipated, or with which he did not fully agree. The revelations supporting this theory included analysis of David's digital communications, which showed evidence of prior coordination with an unidentified person or persons. The reference to a secondary location in the received text message suggested that there were multiple planned meeting points, indicating a level of organization that went far beyond a casual or impulsive encounter. The investigative decision to explore this theory was motivated by the discovery that David had recently shown interest in topics related to unconventional phenomena and theories about classified government activities in the Area 51 region. His online research included forums dedicated to discussions about UFO sightings, secret military experiments, and theories about the unofficial recruitment of civilians with specific technical skills. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because the investigation into other similar cases in the region has revealed a disturbing pattern of disappearances that suggests David Chen's case may be part of a much larger and more complex phenomenon than initially thought. Comment below, nothing was by chance, if you're also realizing that all the evidence points to the fact that David knew exactly what he was doing, even if he perhaps didn't fully understand what he was getting himself into. The investigation into other similar cases in the region revealed a disturbing pattern that completely transformed investigators' understanding of David Chen's disappearance. The hidden truth is that David was not the first person to mysteriously disappear on Highway 375, and the similarities between the cases suggest that something far more organized and systematic may be happening in that specific region of the Nevada desert. The impact of this discovery came when investigators analyzed archived case files from the past 20 years and found at least 11 documented disappearances in the same geographic area, all involving lone drivers who were last seen in similar circumstances. The investigative mindset had to evolve to consider not isolated cases, but a pattern suggesting coordinated activity or specific environmental factors that make that region particularly dangerous. The journey through these historical cases revealed even more disturbing aspects. In 2003, Jennifer Walsh, a 29-year-old geology professor, disappeared after last being seen at the same gas station where David made his last documented stop. Her vehicle was found abandoned less than 10 kilometers from where David's truck would be discovered 16 years later in the same condition. Engine running, doors open, no signs of struggle or accident. Revelations about previous cases showed that many shared specific details that were statistically impossible to explain as coincidences. In 2008, Robert Martinez, a 35-year-old aerospace engineer, had left a similar note on the driver's seat of his abandoned car. "They were right about this place, don't look for me." In 2012, Angela Thompson, a 31-year-old software programmer, had demonstrated the same behavioral changes in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Online searches about paranormal phenomena, questions about family members' professional history, and secret communication with unidentified people. The transformation in the understanding of Highway 375, officially designated as the extraterrestrial highway by the state of Nevada in 1996, revealed that the seemingly touristic designation may mask far more complex realities. The road traverses one of the most militarized and secretive areas of the United States, passing less than 30 kilometers from Area 51 and other classified facilities that house research and development projects that remain highly secret. The backstory of Highway 375 includes decades of consistent reports of anomalous aerial activity, sightings of unidentified flying objects, and encounters with unidentified military personnel operating in the region. Most significantly for the investigation into David's disappearance, Multiple sources have documented the presence of unofficial checkpoints and security patrols that do not correspond to any known law enforcement agency. The mindset behind the official designation as extraterrestrial highway may have been a way to discourage serious investigation into real activity in the region, allowing authorities to dismiss reports of anomalous phenomena as products of UFO-related tourism or conspiratorial fantasy. This strategy of concealment through public exposure is a documented tactic used by intelligence agencies to protect sensitive operations. The connections to secret military activities at Area 51 became more evident when investigators discovered that several of the missing drivers had technical or scientific backgrounds that could be valuable for advanced military research. David Chen was a software engineer specializing in data compression. Jennifer Walsh had a PhD in geology, focusing on the analysis of underground materials. Robert Martinez worked with experimental propulsion systems, and Angela Thompson had developed cryptographic algorithms for national security applications. The decision to investigate possible military connections led to the discovery that Area 51 and related facilities historically conducted unconventional recruitment programs that included identifying and approaching civilians with specific skills needed for classified projects. Declassified documents reveal that during the Cold War, various agencies used recruitment methods that included meetings in isolated locations to avoid detection and maintain operational security. The most disturbing revelations came from interviews with veteran truckers who regularly drive along Highway 375. Marcus Rodriguez, the same trucker who discovered David's abandoned pickup truck, admitted during subsequent questioning that he had witnessed strange activity in the area for years, but had never officially reported it due to informal warnings that asking too many questions about certain things could result in problems with federal authorities. The impact of these testimonies on the investigation was significant because it revealed a culture of silence among professional drivers who frequent the region. Several truck drivers described sightings of unmarked military convoys, helicopters operating at night without identification lights, and encounters with personnel wearing civilian clothing who demonstrated detailed knowledge of civilian traffic movements on the road. The shift in understanding the investigation occurred when truck drivers revealed the existence of an informal communication network among professional drivers that includes warnings about hot periods when anomalous military activity makes certain areas especially dangerous for civilian travelers. The period in which David Chen disappeared coincided exactly with one of these hot periods identified by the trucking community. The more specific reports included descriptions of mysterious lights that appear and disappear rapidly, interference with electronic navigation equipment, and sightings of temporary structures that are quickly assembled and disassembled in seemingly uninhabited areas. Some truck drivers reported direct encounters with individuals who vaguely identified themselves as security consultants and who asked detailed questions about what they had observed during their trips through the region. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because the revelations about David's family and the private investigations they funded have brought to light information that official authorities apparently preferred not to explore or share publicly. The revelations about David's family and the private investigations they funded brought to light information that official authorities apparently preferred not to explore or share publicly. The transformation in the search for answers occurred 6 months after the disappearance, when Dr. Wei Chen and Professor Linda Chen made the decision to hire private investigator Marcus Thompson, a former FBI agent, specializing in missing persons cases with possible government connections. The hidden truth about this private investigation is that it revealed aspects of the case that had been deliberately minimized or omitted from official reports. Thompson, with 20 years of experience in federal investigations and access to networks of contacts still operating within government agencies, managed to obtain information that never reached the public through official channels. The impact of Thompson's findings was immediate and disturbing for the Chen family. The first significant revelation was that David had been discreetly monitored for at least 3 weeks before his disappearance. Analysis of security cameras from businesses near David's apartment in San Francisco revealed the consistent presence of a dark sedan with periodically changing license plates, parked in positions that offered direct visibility of David's activities. Thompson's investigative journey revealed that this surveillance was not random or related to conventional criminal activity. The vehicle always appeared at the same times, during David's morning commute to work and during his return at the end of the day, suggesting detailed knowledge of his daily routine. Even more disturbing, analysis of high-resolution images showed that the vehicle's occupants used advanced surveillance equipment, including cameras with telescopic lenses and unidentified electronic devices. The most significant revelations came when Thompson was able to identify some of the people involved in the surveillance through facial analysis, compared to databases of former federal agency employees. At least 2 of the individuals photographed matched people with a history of working in domestic intelligence operations, although their current employment status remained unconfirmed. The mindset behind this monitoring became clearer when Thompson discovered that David had inadvertently drawn attention to himself through his online research on classified activities in the Area 51 region. Government electronic monitoring systems had identified David as a person of interest due to the combination of his advanced technical skills, his research on sensitive topics, and family connections to classified aerospace research through his father's past work. Behind the scenes of Thompson's investigation, findings included information about witnesses who had witnessed aspects of David's disappearance but were never contacted by official investigators. Maria Santos, a cleaning employee at a construction company located approximately 2 kilometers from where the truck was found, reported seeing unusual aerial activity on the afternoon of David's disappearance. Maria's decision not to initially report her observations was based on previous experiences where local authorities had discouraged reports of anomalous military activity in the region. However, when Thompson interviewed her 2 years after the disappearance, she provided specific details about unmarked military helicopters that operated in the area during the exact period David disappeared. The shift in understanding of the case came when other witnesses emerged through the private investigation. James Peterson, a telecommunications technician who worked on cell towers in the area, revealed that he had been instructed to maintain absolute discretion about interference with communication signals that occurred on the afternoon of David's disappearance. Peterson described systematic interruptions on multiple communication frequencies that lasted approximately 2 hours and corresponded exactly to the period during which David had lost contact. The evidence that David was being followed became even more compelling when Thompson analyzed traffic camera footage along the route David had traveled on the day of his disappearance. The same dark sedan that had been identified monitoring David in San Francisco appeared at least 3 different points along Highway 375, always maintaining a consistent distance from David's pickup truck. The impact of this discovery was profound because it indicated that David's disappearance had not been spontaneous or the result of a chance encounter. The presence of continuous surveillance suggested that individuals or organizations with significant resources had planned and orchestrated the events leading to his disappearance, possibly including manipulation of the communications David had received regarding coordinates and meeting places. The most disturbing revelations about the private investigation came when Thompson gained access to more detailed phone records through contacts within the telecommunications industry. Analysis of these records revealed that the mysterious calls David had received in the weeks leading up to his disappearance originated from cell towers located specifically within the security perimeter of classified military installations. The hidden truth about these findings is that they painted a picture of a government operation that had identified, monitored, and possibly recruited David for purposes not publicly disclosed. The combination of his technical skills, his curiosity about classified activities, and his family connections to previous government research may have made David an ideal candidate for programs that operate outside conventional recruitment protocols. The Chen family's decision not to make these findings fully public was influenced by informal warnings Thompson received through his contacts about the potential consequences of revealing information related to national security operations. The implicit message was clear. Further investigation could result in legal complications or other problems for the family. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because the current status of the official investigation and recent developments in the case reveal how authorities continue to grapple with a mystery that defies conventional categorization and may have implications that extend far beyond a single disappearance. Comment below. The family discovered the truth. If you're also realizing that private investigations have revealed aspects of the case that suggest far more extensive government involvement than official authorities have publicly admitted. The current status of the official investigation and recent developments in the case reveal how authorities continue to grapple with a mystery that defies conventional categorization and may have implications that extend far beyond a single disappearance. The transformation in the official approach over the 5 years since David Chen's disappearance shows an evolution from active investigation to bureaucratic maintenance of a case that officially remains ongoing, but in practice receives minimal investigative resources. The hidden truth about the official conclusions is that they are remarkably vague and inconclusive, a characteristic that may be more revealing than any specific conclusion could be. The final report from the Nevada State Police, released after 2 years of investigation, classifies the case as disappearance of an adult under undetermined circumstances. Bureaucratic language that avoids commitment to any specific theory about what happened to David. The impact of this official inconclusiveness on the Chen family was devastating, not only emotionally, but also legally. Without an official determination of death or conclusive evidence of a crime, the family cannot access life insurance benefits, cannot inherit property registered exclusively in David's name, and remains in a legal limbo that complicates practical aspects of continuing their lives while maintaining hope of finding answers. The family's ongoing efforts to find answers evolved from active private investigation to a broader public awareness campaign about similar disappearances in the region. Dr. Wei Chen and Professor Linda Chen established the David Chen Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting families of people who have disappeared under anomalous circumstances and to lobbying for greater government transparency in investigations involving possible connections to classified activities. The revelations about the Foundation's efforts include the discovery that at least 40 families across the country face similar situations, cases where people with advanced technical or scientific skills have disappeared under circumstances suggesting possible involvement of unconventional government operations. The support network created by the Foundation allows for the sharing of information and resources that individual families would not be able to access independently. The mindset behind this collaborative approach recognizes that individual cases of disappearance can be components of much larger patterns that only become visible when analyzed collectively. The Foundation maintains a private database that correlates geographic, temporal and demographic details of similar disappearances, identifying connections that separate official investigations may not detect. Behind the scenes, the application of modern technologies to the case includes efforts to utilize artificial intelligence data analysis, advanced satellite image processing, and updated forensic techniques to re-examine evidence that was collected in 2019. Technological advancements over the past 5 years offer analytical capabilities that were not available during the initial investigation. The most significant transformation came when the family gained access to high-resolution satellite imagery of the region during the period of the disappearance through an independent research organization. Analysis of these images revealed anomalous vehicular activity in the area in the hours before and after David's disappearance, convoy movement that did not correspond to officially documented routine civilian or military traffic. The decision to use artificial intelligence analysis to process digital communications related to the case revealed patterns in the data that conventional human analysis had missed. Machine learning algorithms identified correlations between the mysterious communications David received and similar messages associated with other disappearance cases in the same region, suggesting that there may be a systematic contact and recruitment operation that has been operating for decades. Current theories from experts who have studied the case have evolved significantly since the initial investigations. Dr. Rebecca Morrison, a criminologist specializing in anomalous disappearances, proposes that David may have been recruited into an unconventional government program operating outside of traditional military or intelligence structures, a black program that utilizes recruitment methods, including psychological manipulation and isolating candidates from their past lives. The impact of this theory on understanding the case is that it explains both the voluntary and involuntary aspects of David's behavior. He may have initially agreed to participate in something presented as legitimate scientific research or specialized consulting work, but later discovered he was involved in something far more compromising than he had anticipated. The latest revelations regarding expert theories include the possibility that David is technically still alive, but unable to return to his previous life due to security commitments, or because he has been permanently integrated into operations requiring complete anonymity. This theory offers hope to the family, but also raises disturbing questions about consent and coercion in government programs that operate without public oversight. The evolution of investigative thinking also includes consideration of more speculative theories involving phenomena that may transcend conventional explanations about government operations or criminal activity. Some experts suggest that the concentration of disappearances in the Highway 375 region may be related to activities or phenomena that the authorities themselves do not fully understand. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because after 5 years of investigations, contradictory evidence and conflicting theories, we've reached the point where we need to confront the most fundamental question: what really happened to David Chen? And what does his story teach us about the limits of what we can know about the mysteries surrounding our lives? After 5 years of investigations, contradictory evidence, and conflicting theories, we have reached the point where we need to confront the most fundamental question: what really happened to David Chen, and what his story teaches us about the limits of what we can know about the mysteries surrounding our lives. The most profound transformation this case provokes is not merely about a man who disappeared in the Nevada desert, but about our understanding of the reality in which we live and the forces that may operate beyond our everyday perception. 5 years later, David Chen remains officially missing. His Ford F-150 pickup truck was returned to his family after forensic analysis was completed, but the questions it raises remain unanswered. The vehicle now sits parked in the garage of David's parents' house in San Francisco, a silent presence that serves as a daily reminder that some truths may be permanently beyond our reach. The hidden truth about the impact of this case on the Chen family is that it fundamentally transformed not only their personal lives, but their understanding of the nature of the society in which we live. Dr. Wei Chen, who had spent decades building a career based on empirical science and verifiable evidence, was forced to accept that there are aspects of reality that defy rational analysis, and that some questions may not have answers that satisfy our human need for understanding and closure. The Nevada desert continues to guard its secrets with the same silent impartiality it has maintained for millennia. Highway 375 remains open to traffic. Tourists still visit the extraterrestrial highway in search of UFO-related adventures. And life goes on as if nothing extraordinary had happened on that specific stretch of asphalt where David Chen was last seen. The family's emotional journey over the past 5 years has revealed aspects of grief and hope that transcend the specific circumstances of David's disappearance. Sarah Mitchell, his girlfriend, eventually made the painful decision to move on with her life, but maintains regular contact with David's parents and continues to participate in the efforts of the David Chen Foundation. She described the process as learning to live with questions that may never have answers. The most profound revelations about this case don't come from physical evidence or investigative theories, but from how it forces a re-evaluation of our basic assumptions about security, government transparency, and our ability to protect the people we love. David's family still waits for the phone call that never comes, the knock on the door that will bring news, the unexpected email that will explain everything. But with each passing day, the reality that this moment may never happen becomes more concrete. The mindset needed to process a case like this requires accepting fundamental ambiguity about aspects of human experience that we prefer to believe are controllable and understandable. David Chen was a real person, with concrete plans, meaningful relationships, and a life that seemed solid and predictable. The fact that someone like that can simply disappear without adequate explanation challenges our fundamental beliefs about order, justice, and our ability to protect one another. The question that haunts not only David's family, but all of us who encounter his story, is deeply disturbing. In the 21st century, in an era of ubiquitous surveillance, instant communication, and advanced tracking technology, how can someone simply disappear without leaving adequate traces? This question forces us to confront the possibility that our sense of security and control may be more illusory than we would like to admit. The lasting impact of David Chen's case lies not only in the specific theories about what may have happened to him, but in how his story illuminates gaps in our understanding of the forces at play in our society. These forces may include government operations that transcend public oversight, criminal organizations with resources and sophistication we underestimate, or phenomena that our current science cannot adequately categorize. The broader implications of this investigation suggest that cases like David's may not be isolated aberrations, but windows into realities about our society that normally remain hidden. The possibility that unconventional government programs, organized criminal activity, or even phenomena that transcend our current scientific understanding may be operating on scales we do not publicly acknowledge is deeply disturbing. The decision to share David Chen's story is not just about documenting an unsolved mystery, but about honoring his humanity and acknowledging that behind every missing person statistic lies a network of relationships, dreams, and responsibilities that were abruptly cut short. David was not just a software engineer who disappeared in the desert. He was a son, a boyfriend, a friend, and a member of a community that continues to feel his absence. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because David Chen's story leads us to a final reflection on our responsibility as a society to protect and search for those who disappear, and on how cases like this can teach us to navigate a world that may be far more complex and unpredictable than our everyday experience leads us to believe. Comment below. Some mysteries are never solved. If you're also feeling the weight of accepting that not all of life's important questions have answers we can reach, even when we desperately need them, David Chen's story leads us to a final reflection on our responsibility as a society to protect and search for those who disappear, and on how cases like this teach us to navigate a world that can be far more complex and unpredictable than our everyday experience allows us to perceive. What impacts me most about the investigative journey through this case is how it reveals layers of reality that normally remain invisible to us. David Chen started as an ordinary person on a business trip and transformed into a symbol of all the unanswered questions about the mysteries surrounding our modern society. His story forces us to accept that even in an era of total connectivity and constant surveillance, there are still forces operating beyond our comprehension or control. The most important lesson we can draw from David's disappearance is not a specific answer about what happened to him, but a deeper understanding of the importance of questioning official narratives, supporting families facing unexplained losses, and maintaining humility in the face of the mysteries that persist in our seemingly explained and categorized world. Perhaps the most comforting truth is that, regardless of what happened to David Chen that day in the Nevada desert, his story continues to have a positive impact through the foundation created by his family and through the awareness that cases like this generate about the need for greater transparency and humanity in how we deal with missing persons. If you've made it this far with me in this deep and emotional investigation, you understand that this isn't just the story of a man who disappeared, but an exploration of how we face the unknown and how we support each other when confronted with questions that may not have answers. Comment below. David deserved answers. If you also feel that cases like this deserve our attention and that we should never stop seeking truth and justice, even when they seem unattainable, click like if you value this type of investigation that goes beyond superficial facts and truly explores the human and social implications of the mysteries we encounter. It is this engagement that allows me to continue dedicating time and resources to investigating cases that deserve to be told with the depth and respect they require. If you want to continue exploring these mysteries that challenge our understanding of security and truth in modern society, subscribe to the channel, because every week I bring you investigations that honor both the missing persons and the families who continue to seek answers. There's a video over here about other cases of people who disappeared on American roads under equally disturbing circumstances. Click and stay with me there, because unfortunately David Chen's story is not unique, and the more we understand these patterns, the better we can protect each other